It was a quiet Sunday morning in the small town of Willow Creek. The air smelled like rain and dust, and the streets were almost empty. A young woman named Emily Carter walked slowly down the road, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and her camera bag in the other. She was a freelance journalist, always curious, always searching for forgotten stories. Emily loved exploring old shops and garage sales. She believed every old item had a story to tell. That day, she stopped at an old wooden house on Maple Street. A handwritten sign outside read, "Garage sale, everything must go." An elderly woman greeted her with a kind smile. "You like cameras, dear?" she asked, pointing to a dusty box on the table. Emily nodded. Inside the box was an old film camera, maybe from the 1980s. It looked worn out but still strong, like it had seen many years and many memories. She decided to buy it for $5. The woman smiled again and said softly, "That camera belonged to my sister. She disappeared a long time ago." Emily froze for a second. She disappeared. The woman sighed. 30 years ago. Her whole family went missing. Police never found them. The old lady didn't say more. Emily didn't want to push, so she thanked her, paid, and left. But her mind was already full of questions. Later that night, Emily sat at her desk. The rain had started falling outside, tapping gently on her window. She took out the old camera, wiped the dust off, and noticed something. There was still a film roll inside. Her heartbeat quickened. Could it still work after all these years, she whispered. She decided to find out. The next day, she went to a small photo shop on the edge of town. The shopkeeper, Mr. Harris, looked surprised when she showed him the film. "This is really old," he said. "But I'll try to develop it. Come back tomorrow." The next afternoon, Emily returned. Mr. Harris was waiting with an uneasy look. "You might want to see this," he said quietly. He handed her a small envelope with printed photos inside. Emily took them and walked to her car. She opened the envelope slowly, one picture at a time. The first photo showed a happy family standing in front of a lake house: a man, a woman, a teenage boy, and a young girl. They looked normal, smiling for the camera. But something felt off. The second photo was the same family, but this time, someone had scratched out the father's face with something sharp. Emily frowned. The third photo made her stop breathing for a moment. Behind the family, among the trees, there was a shadowy figure, tall, dark, standing perfectly still. She looked closer. The figure's face was completely hidden in shadow. Her hands started shaking. On the back of the photo, written in faded blue ink, were the words, "June 14, 1994, don't forget us." Emily's curiosity turned into obsession. She opened her laptop and searched the date online. Within minutes, she found a news article from 1994. "Carter family disappears near Willow Lake, no leads found." Emily froze when she saw the family photo in the article. It was the same family from the pictures. The article said the parents were Thomas and Rachel Carter, and their two children were Daniel and Lily. They had vanished without a trace after a summer weekend at their lake house. No bodies were ever found. Police believed it was a tragic accident, maybe drowning, but locals always whispered about something darker. Emily felt a strange connection. Her last name was also Carter. Coincidence, maybe, or something more. She printed the photo and pinned it to her wall. The smiling faces now looked haunting. Who took that picture? And who scratched the father's face out? Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her editor, asking about her next story. "I think I just found one," she replied. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the lake, the smiling faces, and that shadow in the background. The sound of rain outside grew louder, almost like footsteps. Around midnight, Emily got out of bed and picked up the photo again. She opened her laptop and zoomed into the shadowed area of the picture. Her screen glowed in the dark room as she enhanced the image bit by bit. At first, it looked like just trees. But then she saw the faint outline of a man's face. His eyes seemed to look directly at the camera. Directly at her. She gasped and dropped the photo. Lightning flashed outside her window, and for a split second, she thought she saw a figure standing across the street, watching her window. When she looked again, it was gone. Emily told herself it was just her imagination. She laughed nervously, trying to calm down. But deep inside, she knew this was no coincidence. That photo wasn't just a memory. It was a message. And whoever sent it, might still be out there. A hidden photo. A forgotten family. And a mystery buried for 30 long years. Emily had no idea that by opening the past, she had also opened the door to something or someone that had been waiting all along. This was only the beginning. The next morning, Emily Carter woke up early. She hadn't slept much. The photo from the old camera kept replaying in her mind the smiling family, the scratched-out face, and that shadow standing behind them. She sat at her desk, staring at the name written on the back of the picture. June 14, 1994. Don't forget us. She opened her laptop and searched for Willow Lake, the same name mentioned in the old article. It was only a 2-hour drive from her town. Something deep inside her told her she had to go there. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the journalist in her, or maybe it was that strange connection she felt to the Carter family. She packed her camera, her notebook, and a flashlight. Then she drove off into the gray morning. The road to Willow Lake was quiet and lonely. Old trees stood tall on both sides, their branches forming dark shapes in the fog. When she finally reached the lake, it looked peaceful but empty, the kind of place where silence felt too heavy. The old lake house still stood near the edge of the water. Its paint was peeling, windows broken, and the front door hung loose. It looked like time itself had forgotten the place. Emily parked her car and stepped out slowly. The air was cold, and the smell of wet earth surrounded her. She raised her camera and took a few photos of the house. A voice startled her. "You shouldn't be here." Emily turned quickly. A man stood behind her, maybe in his 30s, with messy hair and tired eyes. He wore a dark jacket and carried fishing gear. "I'm sorry," Emily said. "I didn't mean to trespass. I'm just researching something." The man looked at her for a moment and sighed. "You're not the first one to come here. But most people don't stay long." He introduced himself as Ethan Miller. He was a local, born and raised in Willow Creek. When Emily told him about the old photo and the missing Carter family, his face changed. "I remember them," he said quietly. "I was 10 years old when they disappeared. My family used to live down the road. I played with their son, Daniel." Emily leaned forward. "What do you remember?" Ethan looked toward the lake. The wind moved softly through the trees as he spoke. "They were nice people. But something strange was happening that summer. I remember Daniel saying his dad was scared of someone. He never said who. One night, there were loud noises from the lake house. My mom said it was thunder, but I heard screaming." Emily's skin chilled. "Did you tell the police?" "They didn't believe me," Ethan said bitterly. "They said it was just a storm." Emily asked if she could look inside the house. Ethan hesitated but then nodded. "I'll go with you," he said. "It's not safe alone." The front door creaked as they pushed it open. The air inside was heavy with dust and mold. Broken furniture lay scattered across the floor. Emily ran her fingers along the walls, noticing faded family photos still hanging there. She stopped in front of one, the same smiling family from the photo she found. But this time, there was no scratch. They looked perfect, frozen in time. "This feels wrong," Emily whispered. Ethan pointed to the floorboards near the fireplace. "That's where the police said they found blood. But they never searched deeper." Emily knelt down and noticed that one of the wooden planks was slightly loose. She pulled it up carefully and what she found made her heart race. Underneath the floor, there was a hidden space, covered in dust and cobwebs. Inside were old letters, family photos, and something half-burned, a small diary. Emily opened it carefully. Most pages were unreadable, but one short sentence remained clear. "He said he would come for us if we told anyone." She looked up at Ethan, eyes wide. "Who do you think he is?" Before Ethan could answer, there was a noise upstairs, a faint footstep. Both froze. "Is anyone here?" Emily called out. No reply. The air grew cold. Another sound followed, slow, heavy steps moving across the floor above them. Ethan whispered, "Maybe it's just the wind." Emily shook her head. "That's not the wind." The footsteps stopped. Then the old ceiling groaned, like something or someone was standing directly above them. Ethan grabbed a metal rod from the fireplace. "Let's get out." They backed toward the door quietly. Just as they reached it, a picture frame fell from the wall and shattered on the floor. Emily screamed softly. The glass cracked around a photo, this time of Daniel Carter, the teenage boy, smiling, holding the same camera Emily had bought. "How is that possible?" she whispered. Ethan looked pale. "That's the same camera." Emily nodded slowly. "Yes. The exact same one." They ran outside into the cold evening air. The sun was setting behind the trees, painting the lake in blood-red light. Emily turned back to look at the house one last time. In the upstairs window, for a brief second, she saw a silhouette, a man standing still, watching them. Then it disappeared. Back in her car, Emily tried to breathe. She took out the diary again and read the line once more. "He said he would come for us if we told anyone." She looked at Ethan. "Whatever happened here, it's not over. Someone's still keeping this secret." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we'll find out who." As she drove away, the old photo of the Carter family lay on the dashboard. Under the reflection of the setting sun, Emily could almost see that same shadowy figure behind them again, waiting. The next morning, Emily Carter woke up with the same unease she had felt the day before. The photo, the lake house, and the hidden diary were all swirling in her mind. But one thought haunted her more than anything else: Daniel Carter, the teenage son who had vanished along with his family. She couldn't stop thinking about him. Who was he really? What had happened to him? And why had someone left that strange, shadowy figure in the photo behind the family? Emily packed her camera and notebook again and drove to the town records office. She wanted to know everything she could about Daniel's school records, birth certificates, anything. Inside the dusty records room, she found a young clerk who helped her locate old newspapers and school files. As Emily flipped through the pages, a photograph slipped out of an envelope. It was Daniel Carter, smiling at a school event, but next to him was a man she didn't recognize. The man looked familiar. It was the shadowy figure from the photograph she had found in the camera. Emily's hands trembled as she picked up the photo. She scanned the articles. Daniel had been a quiet, shy boy, but his classmates remembered he sometimes had bruises. One article mentioned that he often seemed worried about someone at home, though he never said who. Emily knew she needed answers, so she called Ethan Miller, the local who had been with her at the lake house. He arrived within an hour, driving an old pickup truck that rattled with every bump in the road. Emily spread the photos and documents across the table. Ethan leaned over, his face pale. "That man. I know him," he said softly. Emily looked at him. "Who is he?" Ethan swallowed hard. "His name was Richard Miller, my uncle. He vanished the same summer the Carters disappeared. People in town always whispered about him, but no one knew where he went. Emily gasped. Wait, are you saying Daniel and your uncle were connected? Ethan nodded slowly. Yes. I remember Daniel telling me once that Richard came to their house. He seemed angry. Daniel was scared, but he never said why. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. She thought of the diary she had seen in the lake house. He said he would come for us if we told anyone. Could he be Richard? Ethan hesitated, then said quietly, I've seen Richard in the woods near the lake. Just standing there, watching. Emily's heart pounded. Do you think he took the family? I don't know, Ethan admitted. But something bad happened that summer. Something everyone is afraid to talk about. That night, Emily went back to her small rental cabin near the lake. She reviewed the photographs again, examining every shadow, every detail. Then she noticed something strange. One of the photos from Daniel's school had been tampered with. A small figure was hidden behind the classroom door, almost invisible. But she knew immediately who it was, Richard. Her phone buzzed suddenly. It was a text message. Stop digging into the past, or you'll end up like them. Emily's hands shook. Her stomach tightened. She had expected danger, but now it felt very real. Someone was watching her, someone who knew she was looking for the truth. She called Ethan. We need to go to the woods tomorrow. The same place you saw Richard. Ethan hesitated. It's dangerous, Emily. But if you insist, we'll do it together. The next morning, they drove to the edge of the forest behind the lake house. The trees were tall, thick, and dark. Fog rolled in from the lake, creating long shadows across the forest floor. Emily gripped her camera tightly and whispered, this is where it all started, and maybe where it ends. They walked slowly, following a narrow trail Ethan remembered from his childhood. It led deeper into the forest, to a place that looked untouched for decades. Emily noticed old tree carvings with initials scratched into the bark. One of them read, D.C. 1994. Emily's heart raced. She took a photo. Daniel must have been here, she whispered. Then, among the roots of an old oak tree, they found a small wooden box. Inside were old letters, a broken locket, and a single photograph. Emily picked up the photo with trembling hands. It was Daniel, standing next to Richard. Daniel looked terrified. In the background, there was a faint figure just like the one in the first photo she had developed. Ethan swallowed hard. This confirms it. Richard knew the Carters. He was there the night they disappeared. Emily shivered. We're close to the truth, but it's dangerous. Someone is still protecting this secret. Suddenly, they heard a rustle behind the trees, a soft snap of a branch. Both froze. The fog seemed to shift, and for a brief second, Emily thought she saw a shadowy figure watching them from a distance. Her camera shook in her hands. She whispered, it's him. Richard. Ethan grabbed her arm. We need to leave. Now. As they ran back through the forest, Emily realized the danger was closer than they thought. The mystery of Daniel's disappearance was not just history, it was alive, and someone was still making sure the past stayed buried. The next morning, Emily Carter woke with a tight knot in her stomach. The events of the past few days, the photos, the lake house, the hidden diary, and the strange warnings had left her feeling uneasy. But she knew one thing, she had to find the truth about the Carter family and Daniel. She met Ethan Miller early, and they drove back to the forest behind the lake house. The air was cold and damp, and a light mist hovered over the ground. The trees swayed as if whispering secrets they had kept for decades. Emily held her camera tightly. Every step into the forest felt heavier, as though the shadows were watching. This way, Ethan whispered, leading her down a narrow trail he remembered from childhood. The path curved through thick trees and underbrush until they came to a place Emily had never noticed before, an old, almost invisible shed, half buried in roots and overgrown plants. The wood was dark, warped, and rotting. The door hung crookedly on broken hinges. Emily's heart raced. "This place, it looks abandoned," she said. Ethan shook his head. "It's been here a long time. My Uncle Richard used to come around this area sometimes. I never knew why." They stepped closer. Emily raised her camera and took a photo. The flash briefly illuminated the shed. In that light, she thought she saw a figure move behind the trees just for a second, but when she blinked, it was gone. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Stay calm. Let's check inside." Emily pushed the door open. The inside was dark, dusty, and smelled of decay. Broken tools lay scattered across the floor, and cobwebs hung like curtains. She shone her flashlight across the room. Then she saw it, remains of human bones, scattered across the ground, some partially buried under dirt. Near them lay old toys, a broken bicycle, and a small locket with the initials D.C. Emily gasped. "It's Daniel, it has to be him." Ethan knelt down and carefully picked up the locket. His hands trembled. This confirms it. Daniel Carter was here. The Carters, they were here too." Emily took photos quickly, documenting everything. She knew this evidence could finally solve the 30-year-old mystery. But as they explored further, Emily noticed something on the wall, a recent photograph pinned with a rusty nail. Her breath caught. She stepped closer. The photo was of herself. Emily's face stared back at her, holding the same camera she had bought at the garage sale. Ethan's face went pale. How is this possible?" Emily's mind raced. "Someone is watching us. Someone knows we're here." Suddenly, a creaking sound came from behind the shed. Leaves rustled violently. Emily's flashlight shook in her hand. She pointed it toward the noise, but no one was there. Then she noticed footprints in the mud, fresh and leading deeper into the forest. "We need to follow them," Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady. They walked slowly, hearts pounding, following the trail of footprints. The fog thickened. Every step seemed louder than the last. Then, through the mist, they found a small clearing. The ground was disturbed, as if someone had been digging recently. Ethan knelt down and brushed away the dirt. Beneath it, they found more human bones, old photographs, and letters. Emily's hands shook as she picked up a crumpled piece of paper. It was a diary page, partially burned, but she could read the words. "If anyone finds this, know that he is still watching. He will not forgive. He will not let us go." Emily looked at Ethan. "Richard, he's still alive. And he's protecting this secret." Just then, a loud snapping of a branch came from the trees behind them. Emily and Ethan spun around. The forest seemed alive with movement, shadows shifting between the trunks. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They sprinted back toward the shed, but as Emily glanced back, she thought she saw a tall, shadowy figure watching them from the edge of the clearing. When she blinked, it was gone. Panting, they reached the shed. Emily grabbed her camera and took one last photo of the place, the shed, the bones, the remnants of a family lost for 30 years. Her hands trembled as she whispered, "We have the evidence. We can finally tell the world." But deep inside, she knew it wasn't over. The photograph of her pinned to the shed wall was proof. Someone was still watching, still controlling the secret, still waiting. Emily Carter and Ethan Miller barely slept that night. The events in the forest haunted them: the shed, the bones, the letters, and the photograph of Emily herself pinned to the wall. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw shadowy figures in the trees, watching, waiting. But Emily knew they had evidence: the remains of the Carter family, the diary pages, the locket, and the photos. She had photographs of everything. Soon, she thought, the truth would be known. The world would finally learn what happened 30 years ago. The next morning, Emily uploaded all the photos and documents to a secure website. She wrote a detailed story, carefully documenting everything they had found. Ethan stood beside her, silent but tense. "This is it," Emily said. "Once this goes online, people will know the truth." Ethan nodded. "We'll make sure it reaches the right authorities too. DNA tests can confirm everything." They finished just as the sun began to rise over Willow Lake. The forest behind the shed seemed calm, almost peaceful. For a moment, Emily thought the nightmare was over. But she was wrong. That afternoon, Emily received a call from the local police. The DNA tests confirmed the bones were indeed Thomas, Rachel, Daniel, and Lily Carter. The missing family was finally identified. Emily felt a mix of relief and sorrow. 30 years of mystery, fear, and unanswered questions now solved. But as she packed up her camera and notes, she noticed something strange. There was a new envelope sitting on her table. It wasn't there before. Inside was a single photograph. She froze. It was a photo of herself. But something was horrifyingly wrong. Her face was scratched out, just like the father's face in the original photo of the Carter family. Emily dropped the photo. Her hands shook. Ethan came over. "What is it?" Emily whispered, "It's me, but someone scratched my face out." A cold wind blew through the room. Emily noticed her camera on the desk. She picked it up. There was one undeveloped photo still inside. She held her breath and carefully removed it, watching as the image slowly appeared. Her eyes widened. It was her standing in the forest, holding the camera she had bought at the garage sale. And behind her, faint but unmistakable, was a shadowy figure watching her. She dropped the camera. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. "He's still out there," she whispered. Ethan grabbed her arm. "We need to leave. Now." Emily nodded. But before they could go, her phone buzzed. A text message appeared. "The past is never finished. You have seen the truth, but you have not seen everything." Emily stared at the message, heart racing. Someone had known she was there. Someone had planned this entire story and was still controlling it from the shadows. That evening, the two of them left Willow Lake, driving fast, looking over their shoulders. Emily kept thinking of the first photograph she had developed, the smiling family with the shadow behind them. And now, after everything they had uncovered, she realized something terrifying: history was repeating itself. The shadow wasn't just a memory. It wasn't just a photograph. It was real. And it was patient. Back in her apartment, Emily placed the last photographs in a folder. She stared at the photo of herself with the scratched-out face. Then she picked up the camera. The last undeveloped picture was still there, waiting. Her hands trembled as she slid it into the developer. Slowly, the image began to appear. She gasped. In the photo, her own face was perfectly visible, but in the background, barely noticeable, stood the same shadowy figure from all the previous photos, watching, waiting. Emily realized the truth. The Carter family had been victims of something sinister, alive and patient. And now, somehow, she was part of that story. Some stories end. Others, never do. Emily had uncovered the truth of the Carter family, exposing 30 years of secrets and lies. But the shadow that had haunted them all along, was still there, still waiting. One photograph had revealed the past. One photograph had changed everything. And one photograph was only the beginning. The screen fades to black. Only the sound of a camera click echoes in the silence.